Only in America could a shopping spree mark the official start of the Christmas season. The day after Thanksgiving is known as Black Friday, which stems from the fact that it's when people, still generally off work and school, start their Christmas shopping. Sales, the all-day rush, and some pretty epic fights have defined this unofficial holiday.
Everyone, please stay calm.
In many ways, it's bigger than Thanksgiving itself now, evidenced by the fact that many stores open up on Thursday evening after Thanksgiving dinner so shoppers can get a head start. But where did this Black Friday rush come from? What if I told you that its existence wasn't some naturally developing trend, but a deliberate move by the business community and the federal government? Welcome into the History Buffs Hub. In this video, we're going to break down the history of Black Friday and how it came to be. Before we get started, please hit that like and subscribe button and ring the bell and turn on your notifications. Leave a comment, tell me what you think. History Buffs Hub wants to cover anything from politics to sports to pop culture, but we can't do it without your help. Before Black Friday became a thing, the phrase initially referred to dark days in US history. For instance, a major financial crisis due to a gold panic that broke out in 1869 occurred on a Friday that year and was referred to as Black Friday, similar to how we think of Black Monday to describe the stock market crash of 2008 that ushered in the Great Recession, the stock market crash of 1987 that ushered in the savings and loan crisis, or Black Tuesday with the Wall Street crash of 1929 that triggered the Great Depression. Ironically, the Depression has a lot to do with Black Friday as we know it. More on that soon. First, we have to trace the roots of Black Friday, which really goes back to Thanksgiving's relationship with Christmas. Just as a reminder in case you fell asleep during second grade history class, American Thanksgiving traces back to the Harvest Feast of 1621 shared by the English Pilgrims and members of the Native American Wampanoag tribe in Plymouth, Massachusetts. This was the first successful harvest for the Pilgrims in the New World, which they achieved due to the assistance of the tribe, and as a pragmatic way to solidify their alliance, they all took part in a feast, which was a common tradition in Europe to celebrate a successful harvest before winter. During the Revolutionary War in December of 1777, the Continental Congress issued the first ever proclamation recognizing Thanksgiving. Over the following decades, there were several other proclamations recognizing it. Thanksgiving wasn't issued as an annual proclamation though until 1863, when Abraham Lincoln, in an attempt to lift the country's spirits amidst the Civil War and out of celebration for the tide of the war turning in favor of the Union, issued a proclamation to celebrate Thanksgiving on the final Thursday of November. He did it again in 1864, and successive presidents continued that tradition after him, which is how it became a customary holiday in America. The Civil War occurred during the Market Revolution, a byproduct of the first phase of the Industrial Revolution that saw a dramatic expansion of retail, which is what led to the rise of gift-giving on Christmas. After the war and Reconstruction came the Gilded Age, the second phase of the Industrial Revolution, which saw the explosion of urban life, only further fueling the commercialization of Christmas in the retail sector. From that time period through the Progressive Era, World War I, and the Roaring '20s, commercialization of Christmas increased, while a Thanksgiving proclamation was issued by the president every year on the last Thursday in November. But Christmas shopping right after Thanksgiving wasn't common before the turn of the century. Most of it happened in the week or two leading up to Christmas, and even to this day, the peak holiday shopping day is the Saturday before Christmas, not Black Friday. However, as the Progressive Era was underway and the mood became more sympathetic to laborers in a backlash response to the Gilded Age, a movement rose up against the excess hours retail employees had to work. To address the issue, the Consumers League of New York, an advocacy group for consumers in the city, launched the Shop Early campaign, encouraging people to get their Christmas shopping done earlier so retailers wouldn't be so overwhelmed just before the holiday. Companies willingly went along with it and saw this as a way to help everybody, and the movement eventually went national. Over time, that movement resulted in businesses naturally marketing the end of Thanksgiving as the start of the Christmas shopping season, since the two holidays were roughly a month apart, and they began to run regular sales and promotions for it, so people were always excited about the day after Thanksgiving to see what deals they could get. The key moment that really led to the public unofficially declaring the Friday after Thanksgiving the start of Christmas was the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade, which began in New York City in 1924 as a way for the company to promote an expansion to its flagship store on 34th Street and boost holiday sales. During the first parade, store employees marched through the city to the store with animals borrowed from Central Park Zoo, live bands, and Santa Claus. The point of the parade was to lead the public to its store so they could see the storefront promotions that would kick off the start of the Christmas shopping season, and this marked a turning point in the use of storefronts to promote Christmas shopping, from decorations to create a vibe to advertising sales related to the holiday. Although the media at the time barely covered the parade, over 250,000 people showed up, so Macy's declared that this would be an annual event. By the 1930s, the Thanksgiving Day Parade replaced Ragamuffin Day, which formed in 1870 and was a form of trick-or-treating by children in the New York area around Thanksgiving. That day fell out of favor because begging looked tacky during the Depression when nobody had any money or anything to give. At the same time though, the economic drawbacks from the Depression made it difficult for businesses to reap the necessary profits from Christmas shopping. Sears catalog tried to further promote its Christmas deals by debuting the Sears Wish Book in 1933, which was then called the Sears Christmas Book, and went out of its way to promote affordable items along with luxury products to market to those struggling economically. Still, it was hard to pick up customers during that time. Retail stores determined if they had a little longer of a shopping period, they could make more money. With 5 Thursdays in November in 1939, Thanksgiving would have fallen on the 30th if it stayed on the last Thursday of the month, which meant only 24 days of Christmas shopping and could have devastated them as they still tried to climb out of the economic effects of the Depression. But none of them wanted to deal with the cultural backlash of breaking tradition, as back then, it was frowned upon to promote anything Christmas related before Thanksgiving ended, and nobody really did Christmas shopping until after Thanksgiving. Just as a side note, can we please go back to that? Anyway, that year, President Franklin D. Roosevelt, who obviously wanted to spur more shopping to help the economy towards the end of the Depression, issued a presidential proclamation moving up Thanksgiving 1 week to Thursday, November the 23rd. FDR saw the extra week of shopping as a potential shot in the arm for the economy. However, this was met with significant public backlash. Critics called this move Franksgiving, and half the states outright rejected it, continuing to celebrate the original Thanksgiving. Since this proclamation wasn't issued until August of that year, it also clashed with a lot of events that had been scheduled around the originally assumed Thanksgiving date, including school calendars and most notably college football games, where teams routinely intentionally schedule their rivalry games for Thanksgiving week, and some athletic conferences didn't even allow for regular season games beyond the first Saturday after Thanksgiving. The confusion resulted in little help from this move. There was hardly any economic impact. FDR stood his ground though, and in November of 1940, he issued a proclamation again, this time declaring Thanksgiving to be on the 3rd Thursday in November the 21st that year. More states adopted it this time, 32 plus Washington, D.C. to be exact, but 16 states still rejected it and insisted they celebrate the quote-unquote Republican Thanksgiving, the final Thursday of the month, a clear reference to the party of Lincoln sticking with the day Lincoln chose to recognize the holiday. Despite the Commerce Department once again finding little economic impact from it, FDR issued a proclamation again in 1941 declaring Thanksgiving to be on the 3rd Thursday in November, the 20th that year, rather than the 27th. But in December that year, the country grew more united behind FDR after its entry into World War II due to the Pearl Harbor attacks. Using that momentum, FDR was able to reach a deal with the states that were holding out to get on board with a resolution by Congress that would declare Thanksgiving to be on the 4th Thursday of November every year, upholding tradition but making sure retail establishments weren't shortchanged for Christmas shopping when November had 5 Thursdays, which would happen 2 every 7 years. This officially made Thanksgiving Day a holiday, and it codified the Friday after it as the official start of the Christmas shopping season. From there, Black Friday began to emerge. Christmas shopping on Black Friday obviously picked up significantly with the end of the war as the US transitioned to a peacetime economy in the late 1940s. What really helped increase Black Friday shopping during this time was the growth of sick days. There's still no federal law guaranteeing sick leave to employees today in the US, but state laws began to crop up in the 1940s, and during the war, there was a massive labor shortage. So with employees having all the leverage, businesses began to offer sick leave among other things like pensions and medical insurance to find workers. They had the help of the government too, which ruled that these contributions would not be considered taxable, and the National Labor Relations Board ruling these benefits were a legitimate part of collective bargaining for unions. By the early 1950s, paid vacation and sick days were finally mainstream in America. Combine that with a booming economy and Thanksgiving now being set in stone as an official federal holiday, and you had all the ingredients in place. Men across the country regularly began to use paid time off, either by vacation or calling in sick, the day after Thanksgiving so they could get a 4-day weekend out of Thanksgiving and spend the time with their family. Paid time off is actually where the phrase Black Friday to refer to the day after Thanksgiving was first used. Funny enough, the first shopping-related use of the term Black Friday does have ties to Christmas, as it goes back to the 1890s when stores began to have post-Christmas sales, which is obviously still common. A Montana clothing store in January of 1891 had what was called a Black Friday bargain sale to clear out suits and overcoats. But the phrase Black Friday as we know it dates back to the early 1950s. The magazine Factory Management and Maintenance referred to the Friday after Thanksgiving as Black Friday in 1951 and 1952 due to the high volume of workers calling in sick that day so they could have a 4-day weekend and effectively celebrate the transition from Thanksgiving to the start of Christmas. As the decade wore on, so did the growing shopping spree on that day. Then in the early 1960s in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, police used the term Black Friday to refer to the large number of suburban tourists who would come into the city to shop the day after Thanksgiving, made even worse by the chaotic number of visitors who would come in for the annual Army-Navy college football game that day. The huge crowds created longer shifts for the police who couldn't be among the employees taking extra time off to enjoy with their families. All hands had to be on deck for public officials at this time. Relatively quickly, the phrase Black Friday took off in the city, but as a negative connotation. Retail establishments in the city tried to spin the labeling of the day, rebranding it Big Friday, but that phrase never caught on. By the 1970s, the phrase Black Friday was spreading outside of Philly, and retailers finally found a way to put a positive spin on it. It became a euphemism for how retail establishments went from being in the red to being in the black thanks to the start of Christmas shopping that day generating them profits. Just as that was happening, suburban mall culture was growing. It was good for promotion to sell this as the biggest shopping day of the year. Stores started issuing special sales flyers to promote the event in the 1980s and began doorbuster deals, where there would be extreme sales on certain products on a first-come, first-served basis during this time. And this is when people started lining up outside of places waiting for them to open. Retailers still used catalogs, but also a blitz of commercials and newspaper ads to not only promote their sales, but to tell shoppers the best way to strategize to get the early deals. As the inflation from the 1970s collapsed and the economy grew, the supply-side policy of Ronald Reagan's administration, along with that of future presidents to promote free trade and reduce global tariffs, regardless of what you feel about the merits of that policy, kept the cost of goods from rising at the same rate of the growth in the economy. That resulted in an explosion of purchasing power to complement the growth of the shopping mall, and Black Friday finally took off as a cultural phenomenon. Almost instantly, those entertaining fights we always wait for began. The deals, purchasing power, and new business model of promoting must-have products in a given year all led to that. The first famous, or maybe infamous, Black Friday fight came in 1983. There was the Cabbage Patch Kids riot. It was where Cabbage Patch Kids toys, which are cloth dolls with plastic heads and produced by Coleco Industries, were in much higher demand than the company prepared for, leading to a lack of supply, and regularly led to fights for the final toy on any shelf across the country. Similar to Beanie Babies of the 90s, there was a crazy perception out there that these dolls would see a dramatic increase in value over the years. Spoiler alert, it didn't happen, but that didn't change what people thought at the time. And there's a lot of value in the YouTube videos that we see now of the fights that were happening over those dolls from the 80s. Parents, desperate to get their kids a Cabbage Patch Kids doll, frantically lined up at stores across the country ahead of the Black Friday openings, and that led to stampedes, riots, and fights. No store was prepared for it, and with that, the beauty of Black Friday fights was born. The continuation of crowds and potential stampedes lining up at stores before they opened played a role in businesses looking to open earlier, along with the potential increase in sales. And by the 1990s, many were starting to open at 5 a.m. as this decade saw the promotion of new electronic devices like gaming systems. The decade of the 90s also saw the earliest forms of businesses opening on Thanksgiving too, in order to head off the insane Black Friday rush. Kmart started it in 1991 by opening at 7 p.m., and by the 2000s, several stores began to follow suit, opening at 7, 8, or 9 p.m. on Thanksgiving. Although this was culturally frowned upon, it was accepted, which resulted in the dubbing of the phrase Gray Thursday. Gray Thursday gained steam after the 2008 financial crisis for multiple reasons. Retailers obviously needed to open earlier to generate more revenue around this time, but several surveys revealed employees were happy to work on this day too in order to generate much needed overtime pay, as many of them were the demographic of people who needed this shot in the arm during their recovery from the crash. Given the fact that opposition to stores opening was on behalf of employees people felt should have been spending time with their family, it didn't seem like as much of a problem anymore if the employees themselves didn't mind. A compromise was to open at midnight on Black Friday, which honestly probably didn't help anybody, but it did promote the event. The mall culture was dying by the early 2010s, but those that remained or were still thriving started opening their doors right at 12:01 a.m. Selling the fun of the Black Friday rush helped the malls themselves as much as the retail establishments in them, so they turned the whole situation into a vibe. It was around this time that alternatives to Black Friday began as well. Cyber Monday, the Monday after Black Friday, started in 2005. As the e-commerce market took off in the early 2000s, experts began to notice that the peak online shopping day was that Monday, which is how the phrase began, and with the explosion of e-commerce after the financial crisis, it really took off in the 2010s. With Black Friday dominated by giant retail chains, American Express and the National Trust for Historic Preservation launched the promotion of Small Business Saturday in 2010, the Saturday after Black Friday, where they encouraged people to do their Christmas shopping at locally owned brick-and-mortar stores. Boston Mayor Thomas M. Menino and a local community organization in the city, Rosendale Village Main Street, launched the first Small Business Saturday. The idea was to capture the original essence of the Christmas spirit, when over 100 years prior it wasn't dominated by national chains, but rather local retail shops. President Barack Obama actively promoted the event in an attempt to help revitalize the small business community after the 2008 crash. He was famous for taking his family to small independent bookstores in Washington, D.C. like Politics and Prose that day to help promote it. Then, in 2012, Brunswick Group CEO Henry Timms launched Giving Tuesday with United Nations Foundation and supported by Black Sheep. This takes place the day after Cyber Monday and encourages giving to charity to truly capture the spirit of Christmas, in a callback to Charles Dickens' A Christmas Carol, which ironically launched the culture of retail when it was published in 1843, as it created the vibe behind the Christmas spirit. As the 2010s drug on, you heard stories of Black Friday declining due to online shopping, and then COVID hit, so in 2020, nobody could go in store. However, if you look at the numbers, that's actually not the case. Since COVID, the number of Black Friday shoppers has actually increased, even as the number of online shoppers on that day has increased too. According to Adobe, customers spent a record $10.8 billion online for Black Friday shopping in 2024. However, while 87.3 million people shopped online, there were still 81.7 million in-store shoppers that year, which was a record according to National Retail Federation. In fact, while the total number of shoppers dropped from 2023, the number of in-store shoppers increased. That singular stat is all you need to know that Black Friday isn't going anywhere. It's not just the in-store shopping record. It's the fact that the record was set when it wasn't needed, and that is actually illuminating as to what Black Friday is truly about. With the growth of online shopping, you would think if Black Friday was all about the sales, people would just do it online and in-store shopping would decrease. But in-store shopping is still on the rise. It's because there are Americans who still value the vibe and Christmas spirit, and there's no denying Black Friday is a part of that. Beyond all the deals, the crowds, and yes, the fights, many people see this as an event, an excuse to spend valuable moments with family and friends. And let's face it, there's a memory you'll create with your family if you guys are among the first to get a deal together, or if you all are fortunate enough to witness a fight. Please, 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 guys, this weekend, if you see a fight on Black Friday, film it up right on your phone so we all can see it. Don't be selfish. Anyways, going back to employees beginning to take this day off for a 4-day weekend in the 1950s, Black Friday was a rare chance to do something with the whole family, and oftentimes with extended family members who were visiting. And isn't that what the holiday season is all about anyway? Cynics love to use Black Friday as proof of America's culture of overindulgence and vanity. And it doesn't help that recent polling has suggested most Americans do Black Friday shopping for themselves, not other people. But the number of in-store shoppers actually shows something much more encouraging. that humans still deeply value connections with other humans, and recent stats show that Black Friday is, and always has been, about those connections. Maybe, just maybe, the day is a way to use the culture of consumerism as an excuse to spend time with family, not using family as an excuse to take part in the culture of consumerism. But with this video coming out the week of Thanksgiving, I could just be looking for an excuse to be positive and thankful. Thanks for hopping into the History Buffs Hub to watch this video. Would you say Black Friday has had a net positive or negative effect on American culture? Please tell us in the comments, and once again, don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button for more history videos in the future.